Welcome back, Roster the People. 32 teams in 32 days. If you've made it this far, I consider you a personal friend. Because that's an amazing amount of tolerating us talking.
So proud of you.
So I am. I'm genuinely astonished. Uh, as you read and as you are seeing in my background, today we are going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Today is the 21st of August. So we are getting close. It is week 3 of the preseason. We're getting ready for teams to finalize their rosters. We're getting really close. So today is Tampa Bay. Today is the 21st of August. Uh, so if anything sounds a little weird or a little dated, that would be why. We are going to be recording the final show on the 28th. That'll be the update show where we update all the takes from along the way. That'll go up very early on the morning of the 31st. So everyone will get a chance to listen to that before your draft happens. So there you go. If you're drafting earlier than that, you are doing it wrong. If your league is drafting earlier than that, you're doing it wrong. And what you should do is consider moving to a slow draft that people can do on their own. That way you're not. I know it's fun trying to pile everyone into a room and knock it out, but you're drafting. You're playing with fire. That's how people get hurt, and then everybody's all bitter about I took this person, they got hurt, and then I have to deal with Jason and I have to deal with that problem every Wednesday, all year. Which does, we're happy to help, but it does get old, especially when we give this PSA every year, which is draft on Labor Day weekend. Draft once the preseason games are over, because then you'll know what the rosters are and you'll know what the injuries are. And that's the right way to do it. Even if you have to do a slow draft that you can set up in the settings for your league where people have time to make their picks and actually think. That's the right way to do this. So this is your 2024 draft primer. The final show will go up on the 31st. That'll update all the takes that need to get updated. And this is it. So for 2024, you're getting close. We've only got a little bit left to go. So with that, as always, this is based on 12-team PPR, 16-round draft. We're going to reference a lot of rankings and ADPs. They primarily come from Fantasy Pros. Shout out to Fantasy Pros. We're going to be referencing the ECR. Jason and I do our own rankings that are part of that. So we'll bring it up if we need to along the way. We're also going to go through ADPs, all these fun ADPs, so that you can see what the public is doing. And with that, that is the majority of the fun PSAs that we have to do to make sure people know what they're listening to every single show. So today we're talking about Tampa Bay, playoff team last year. Surprised a lot of people. Didn't surprise me because people were talking about Atlanta, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. Got a lot of crap for that. Wound up being right, all the way down. Every prediction I made about that was right. And this also wound up being right, was that Tampa Bay would be the team that would do just enough out of that weak division to win the division. And then, lo and behold, they did what a lot of teams do, which is they had some success and then they doubled down. We're going to talk about whether or not we think that was a smart idea.
No
Sure,
changes.
I know Mike has some opinions on whether or not that was a smart idea. From a real football perspective. But yes, there is not a lot in the way of changes on this team. Similar to the Seahawks show, where if you saw that team last year, guess what? You kind of know what it is. So there's a few little things, but mostly the same. So speaking of things that are the same, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's coming back. This is one of the decisions that I actually think is smart. Because what were you going to do anyway? What were you going to do? You didn't have a good draft pick, and the free agent market was terrible.
Well, if they would have known Sam Howell was available,
maybe.
They did the contract in the right way, though, which is
they did.
Giants take note. It's literally a 1-year contract. Like, if he regresses back to what he was before, it's like, see ya. If you're good again, hey, we got a deal. It's really
you
smart.
left yourself a series of outs, unlike the Daniel Jones contract.
Yes.
You left yourself a series of outs to get out of this if it does blow up.
Yep.
So you're doing this
deal if it's good.
Right. And if it's good, hey, even if it is good and he doesn't like the deal anymore, give him some incentives. You know what I mean? There's ways to renegotiate this that isn't the Daniel Jones contract with fully guaranteed money, because we've seen Baker Mayfield a lot. We've seen the better parts of it and the bad parts of it. It is what it is. But the coaching staff that they are keeping really does seem to like Baker. And they got the best out of him last year. Baker basically had the best year of his career last year.
QB 10.
Yeah. So I get why we're doing this. It makes sense. So for fantasy, he opens as the QB 21, which is kind of interesting. He goes around 156 by ADP. This actually is backup quarterback range. So this is one of the guys that if you're waiting on QB, I could see taking a flyer on him as my second QB. Not my cup of tea, but go ask our colleague Steve Bonham what he thinks. You'll get a very different answer. So there is some of that going on. I wouldn't sit here and say, "Oh, you're crazy." No. As you mentioned, he was the QB 10. Do I think he's going to be the QB 10 again? Not really.
A lot tougher. It again depends on health. Could easily move up the ranks.
Actually, not even just his health. The health of his skill position players. Yeah, we'll make a big deal here. It's a big difference. But I could see him being my backup QB. I think this is appropriately ranked, is what I'm saying. This is about right, which is a little weird when you're like, but he was the QB 10. Why such a deal? And it's like, well, let's go look at other years. Let's expand the sample. And then you'll know.
This is where I have him ranked. So I completely understand why people are doing it. It's hard to really move him up ahead of anybody in front of him.
You're not getting much rushing floor here. You're getting a little. Teeny tiny little rushing floor, but you're not getting like a real he ain't some of these other guys.
Yeah, and that QB 10 you're referencing, it is important, especially last year with all the injuries, to look at per game. He was actually QB 19, so
right.
There's a couple in there that only played 3-4 games, but ahead of him. But he was more of closer to a top 20 guy than he was a top 12 guy in points per game. So he just managed to stay healthy, which half the quarterbacks couldn't do last year. So.
He is an excellent matchup play, and he is an excellent streamer. Yep. And he's
used him a lot last year in
usable backup. But if he's starting for your team, I have questions about what the rest of your team is. I have some serious questions. But now, if your team is just stacked and you just punt it on quarterback, okay. You could do worse. But it's not what I would call slam dunk return on investment. There's a reason that we're having this conversation the way that we are. Hell, last year we were talking about could he even beat out Kyle Trask, who is still the backup. And he buried that conversation, by the way, remarkably quickly. So good for him. It's what he should have done. But yeah, to your point about points per game, that's why. Last year was a disaster for evaluating quarterbacks, and it has dragged that conversation into this year with the way QBs are being ranked, both ECR and ADP. It's really made this hard. But I would say very serviceable quarterback for backup purposes, for streaming purposes, and for break glass in case of emergency purposes. That's what you're looking at. And, of course, he's good enough to not crater out the whole world around him, like his skill position guys. We mentioned Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask is I don't even want to spend time on Kyle Trask. He's the backup. Good for him. Not relevant for fantasy purposes. What is relevant for fantasy purposes is what I think is the meat and potatoes of this show. Rachaad White. Okay, this is where Mike and I are going to have a conversation. Because I've started this conversation once, and it got to a point where I'm like, just stop talking. We're going to do this on the air. I'm going to just lead with this. I am a big Rachaad White fan. Big Rachaad White fan. Recommended him for Dynasty for when he came out. Loved him in college. And so far, I have been correct. He has outkicked just about everybody's projections for what he should theoretically have been able to do as quickly as he's been able to do in the NFL. So I'm right today. But there are some troubling storm clouds that are gathering over here. That we need to kind of parse through. And I'm not that ignorant, but we're going to go through it. So Rachaad White is the RB14 for this year. Let's talk about what Rachaad White did last year and about how much better he was than the RB14. Rachaad White was an every week starter, slam dunk, out of the gate last year, and he did it a year early. In his rookie year, he made up a lot of ground and earned himself meaningful playing time. So much so that last year, he was the every down. He was the 3-down starter for this team. He did everything for them. He caught everything. Everything. He was the red zone back. He was the between the tackles back. He did everything that they asked him to do and more, and he did it with a smile. As such, he opens as the RB14. His ADP is 34. I think that is a very, very fair ADP and ranking. In fact, I think you're getting a discount. Because beyond that, they drafted Bucky Irving in this year's draft, which a lot of people have made a lot of noise about. And then who's the third guy? Help me with the third guy. Last year's guy. The other back. There's a third guy. The name is
I'm trying to remember his name.
No,
Keyshawn
not on the
No,
no, not
it
on
was Sean Tucker was the rookie last year.
Yeah, Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker,
yeah.
thank you. Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker's the third guy. He's your RB3. Sean Tucker couldn't even get on the field and has already been being outplayed by Bucky Irving. And Keyshawn Vaughn is no longer on this team, so we don't need to worry about Keyshawn Vaughn anymore. Thank God.
And Chase Edmonds?
Chase Edmonds is on the roster bubble. He's not going to make the team.
He's still there, yeah.
He's still there.
Other names that were involved last
bubble.
year. My bad.
He's on the roster bubble. He's not going to make this team. There's no chance. There's no chance that Chase Edmonds makes this team. So you're talking about the big knock on Rachaad White right now is literally Bucky Irving. It's down to the idea that are they going to give Bucky Irving meaningful work enough that it starts messing with the Rachaad White thing? I will tell you that in the industry, that is a very commonly held belief, is that Rachaad White played out of his mind last year. And a lot of people think that that's not repeatable and that Bucky Irving is going to eat into a large share of what he does. Bucky Irving, for the record, is rated as the RB56, 204 overall. So the public does not agree. And I don't agree. I think Rachaad White should be a top 12 running back by every metric, and that the concerns about Bucky Irving, him taking him off the field, are widely overblown. So, Mike, you and I had a conversation that goes like this, if you recall. I forget what show it was, but I filed this away. Well, are you okay with Rachaad White being your RB1? And I turned around and said, yes, I am. In fact, I'm very confident in that. And you were like, oh, okay, well, then that explains the difference between me and you. And that's where I go right now. So, Mike, have I outlined the situation in Tampa in the running back room to your satisfaction? Or would you like to amend anything I've said?
No, I think you outlined it pretty well. The big thing with Rachaad White, it does remind me a little bit of like Najee Harris, rookie year, almost 400 touches for Najee Harris, but just was not good with those. It was pure volume, which got him there. And then everyone's drafting him.
Interesting
first
comparison.
Round.
Very different player.
Very different player for sure. But I mean, like, he was just literally catching dump off 75 catches, but he wasn't efficient at all with what he was doing. Now, Rachaad White is a better pass catcher. He's more talented. So that's where he has like the safety net a little bit. I don't think Najee is really talented in any area. He's just a pure volume guy. Rachaad White is good with the ball, can run routes, can catch the ball. But you mentioned it. There was no one last year. Sean Tucker can get on the field.
Nothing.
Keyshawn Vaughn.
Keyshawn Vaughn is bad. Chase Edmonds is done. Like that's who he was competing against was nothing.
Yeah. So Bucky Irving, we'll see. He's been looking good, but I don't expect generally rookies when they come in with an established guy don't do much. Tank Bigsby last year, Zach Charbonnet the year before. Like we see it year in and year out, which is why the overreactions I think on Kyron Williams, I don't understand because I don't think Blake Corum's going to do much this year.
That's a better conversation for the wrap-up show.
Yeah. But so I don't necessarily think so unless Rachaad White continues to average like 3.6 yards per carry, which how long are they going to deal with that and giving him 270 carries at 3.6 yards per attempt? We'll see. Part of that is the offensive line. It's not all on Rachaad White. But no, I'm fine with where he's at. Like, I don't necessarily want him as my RB1, but I'm like, again, like, am I hating it? Am I thinking the world's going to end? No, like it's fine. But he is what he is. He's going to get the volume and he catches passes. So like, that's not going to go away no matter what, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. Last year he had 70 targets and caught 64. So, I mean, if you're hitting that that's really what saved him, to be honest. It's like that added what 4 points a game, not including the yards, which is an additional 2 points. So you're looking at 6 total points every game that you're getting right there. In PPR, like that always helps a running back. So it's just, is he still going to get that?
I think he will still get that. And in fact, the reason why I'm fine with this is because if they want to have Bucky Irving do some of that dirty work in the middle of the field, running the ball up the middle, great. Fantastic. Less car crashes for Rachaad White to be in. Increases the chance that he'll be available for you every week. The one concern that I would voice is red zone. If we start seeing Bucky Irving getting goal line carries, okay, that's not great. And I shouldn't say goal line. I'd say inside the 5. That I wouldn't love. That I would not love. But we don't know that. No one knows that. Anyone who tells you they know that is lying to you. Like, it's just what it is. Like, so that's the situation. So I've mentioned that there's only a handful of teams that are must handcuffs. Welcome to the final team. This is it. This is the last team. There's like 4 in the entire NFL this year. Given where Bucky Irving is going, and given the lack of competition around these two, I will make the argument that Bucky Irving is a must handcuff because I could literally get him as my last skill position player. He's not even being drafted. I could cut it someone at the end of the draft if I wanted to and pick him up if I had to. I could take somebody, put them on my IR, and pick up Bucky Irving and roster it for a few weeks and see if it pans out. And if not, I can cut him. It doesn't matter. So this is why I'm saying there's only a handful of must handcuff teams. It's a very short list this year. This is one. In my opinion, this is what I would do. I want both. I'm hedging against my very expensive running back.
Yeah. Important to note, Bucky Irving did catch 56 passes his last year in college. So he can catch the ball.
He can if they need him to. I doubt they will. But
again, I don't think they will.
If White gets hurt, though, like he will take on that full role.
That's why I mean by must handcuff.
Yeah.
Because what they're not, Chase Edmonds not going to be on the team. Keyshawn Vaughn's not there to kick around anymore. They don't have much else. And they tried last year to get other people. It's just not going to happen. They know who they are. They know what their team is. There's a reason that this is shaking out the way that it is. So there's only a handful of must handcuffs. We've seen them all at this point. It's about 4 teams in reality this year that I feel like you really have to prioritize getting the handcuff. And then everybody else is like, that'll be a platoon. You don't need to worry about it. Wide receiver. Boy, this is going to look familiar. Hey, it's Mike Evans. I believe he's going for 10 years in a row of over 1,000 yards. He still has never had less than 1,000 yards in a season. I think this is the literal decade mark is this year, if he can do it, which is insane. He's been putting up.
He hit 10 last year, so yeah.
11. Oh, it was 10 last year?
Yeah, I think he's going for the record for most consecutive. He already has the record to start the career, but he's going to tie or beat Jerry Rice for most consecutive.
This is the Jerry Rice year? Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's crazy.
So Mike Evans opens as the wide receiver 15. His ADP is 33. So that would be like the last pick of the 3rd round or the first pick of the 4th round. I have nothing to say about this other than yes. I will continue to do this until Mike Evans is done. I'm going to get burned one year at some point.
And then you'll be done.
But I couldn't tell you when. It's been 10 years. And I've recommended this every year. I'm just going to keep recommending it. Because nothing has changed.
Arguably his best year last year.
I know. You keep saying
top 3.
People keep saying in the industry, this is it. This is it every year. So there's somebody. This is it. This is it. This is it. And it's never it. And so I've just resigned myself to like Derrick Henry, where it's like, I'm just going to be wrong one year. I'm just going to recommend it every year until eventually I'm wrong one year and then we'll reevaluate.
Yep.
And that's just where we are. And I don't see any other reason to. So there you go. That seems like a very reasonable price tag for Mike Evans, especially knowing that the franchise knows that he's trying to break that Jerry Rice record. so they're going to give him the ball. You know they're going to go. They're going to let him try. Like, that's their guy. They love him. And he signed that deal in the offseason to stay in Tampa because he wants to retire a Buck. He's been there his whole career. Why would you leave? It doesn't make any sense. He already won a Super Bowl. He doesn't need another one. Be nice to win one, but you don't need it. You've already done it. So at this point, you're just playing for glory. And stay where you live. Live in your own house. You know what I mean? Like, don't worry about it. Like, it's a good problem to have if you're Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, another one. Very familiar face. Brutal year for Chris Godwin last year. Unlike Mike Evans, Chris Godwin was coming off the worst year of his career. Largely due to injury. He was beat up, and they were having him play outside, which, as we learned, not really the best way to use Chris Godwin. So this year, he opens as the wide receiver 35, translates to 77 overall. Here's the thing about all this. He's going back into the slot. They've been very open about the idea that we're going to let one of the other guys we have play on the outside. We're going to put Chris Godwin back where he belongs in the slot, doing the job that we know he can do very well. So is anybody scared? Anybody scared about Chris Godwin?
No, and I mean, you touched on it, him having a bad year last year. Wide receiver 28 is a bad year.
Right.
So,
that was a bad year. He was a flex. He was a wide receiver 3 last year, and that was the worst year of his career. Oh, that's what a world.
He had 6 less targets than Mike Evans. You give him 3 more touchdowns, he's a top 20 receiver, and that, going from 2 to 5 is reasonable. You touched on it, the slot percentage. He was playing his good years. He was playing 65% in the slot. Last year was 33%. You see it in the catch percentage. He was in the mid to high 70s. His catch percentage, it dropped to 64% last year. So yeah, he reminds me of kind of Mike Evans last year, who we were all fading. We were like, what are we doing? Everyone was like, oh, Baker Mayfield's here. He can't support Mike Evans. It's like, what? Yeah. I like Godwin.
Playoffs.
Yeah,
and
and won a game.
Right, and won a game. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Godwin. He still had over 1,000 yards. And the slot.
That's the surprising thing. I think people would be surprised by is that he actually did get over 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you just look at the book on what people are talking about, getting ready to go to this year, you would think Chris Godwin had like 800 yards and completely fell off.
No,
and that is not what happened.
He had more catches than Evans.
He did what he could in a suboptimal situation, playing outside when he's not really meant to do that, and playing hurt for a lot of the year.
Yeah.
And it was really frustrating based on what your expectations were. And I think this year we see a return to form for Chris Godwin because they're going to put either Jaleel McMillan,
yes,
this year's rookie, that's their rookie. So they drafted Jaleel McMillan in this year's draft, or they're going to give Trey Palmer another shot. Right now, it's looking like Jaleel McMillan based on the camp that both players had. McMillan is on the inside track to be the wide receiver 3 on this team and to play on the outside opposite Mike Evans. That's all the camp reporting I've read. It is pretty well documented that that's what they want. Neither of these guys have any kind of ADP or anything like that. Long gone are the days of Antonio Brown and us talking about the Bucs supporting 3 wide receivers. That's not really what the projection is. Jason, are you interested in any of this?
I mean,
the role players outside of the big 2?
Yeah, because if they are running 3 wide, which probably wouldn't be surprised they do that quite a bit.
Debatable.
I mean, just debatable. Because they like Otten, who's their tight end, but outside of that, they don't really pass to a third player.
It's White.
Well, yeah. I mean, outside the running.
And by the way, White's not 3. White's 2. Well, no, actually, based on the math we just went through, he would have been 3. So,
but even then, I mean, it's not really worth it to have him, but it's definitely a name to know just because, like you said, one of them goes down. I would expect him to really be the one to step up into that role, especially later.
I like McMillan for Dynasty. If
Yeah,
you want to take
sure.
McMillan in the 4th round of your dynasty draft that already happened, this isn't helpful. Good. I'm fine with that. Anything that is redraft related, no. That's a name you guys might talk about on Mondays at some point during the season. I agree with you, Jason, though. If something was to happen to one of the other 2 big guys, or Otten even, maybe we could have that conversation. But for right now, and I don't really like Trey Palmer very much. Not really my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Trey Palmer looks good in the uniform. I'll say that. He looks good out there running. Not super excited about for fantasy though. Like,
The thing that might be, I don't know if he's still there, but I know Sterling Shepard at one point was peeking his ugly head around there, and that could be if Godwin got hurt, man, that would
is
be
Sterling
a
Shepard even still on that team? I don't think
I guess he is. I didn't.
Is he still
even
there? I
realize
thought they
that.
cut him.
Yeah. He's
I don't know,
questionable.
I just remember.
Oh, of course, he's always questionable. That's not new. He's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
questionable, Mike. We know that. Like,
Yeah. I just saw a headline. Todd Bowles confirms McMillan will make the final 53. It's like, yeah, of course he will. It's your 3rd round pick.
Yeah, you don't say.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
thanks.
Yeah, though the
Yeah.
reporting that I saw from all the local beat reporters was that McMillan is right now on the inside track to be one of the starting guys, and he's going to be out there playing on the outside. That's what they want him to do.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he can do it.
Yeah.
We'll see if he can actually do it. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about drafting any of that. Honestly, this is similar to the Seattle show, actually, in a lot of ways. Where it's like, I'm not really that interested in drafting the quarterback. I am interested in drafting the running back, but I want to make sure I get the handcuff. And then there's 2 wide receivers that I like. And then that's it. And the show's over. And that's the whole show. It's very similar. And then, yes, we will talk about Kate Otten briefly. Jason, you and I talk about Kate Otten a lot, actually. I like Kate Otten as much as I can bring myself to care about any tight end. I do like Kate Otten, and that has very little to do with Kate Otten. It has everything to do with Baker Mayfield likes Kate Otten. Clearly. Based on last year and then the preseason this year. Baker likes to throw to Kate Otten when he gets in trouble. So when the play breaks down and Baker's got to run for his life, that's who he looks for, is Kate Otten. And that is not new behavior from Baker Mayfield. That is just Baker Mayfield, the NFL player. When he's got to scramble, he's looking for that tight end. So I do like Kate Otten purely as a streamer. He opens as the tight end 28, 241 overall. He's not draftable. It's not something you need to worry about drafting. But as far as streaming options go, I do like Kate Otten as a weekly streamer. He is on my radar for somebody where I'm looking at matchups. Like, are they terrible against the tight end? Fine, give me Kate Otten. Great. Like are they got bad linebackers? Yeah. Give me Kate Otten. Is their defense crap and the Bucs might be able to move the ball? Yeah. Okay, maybe Kate Otten. Because it only takes one falling into the end zone for Kate Otten to have paid you off for the whole week. If he gets 4 for 40 or 1 for a touchdown, we're good. Paid off. All I needed. So that's this team as far as I'm concerned. I think the rumors of Rachaad White's death are greatly exaggerated. I think Mike Evans is an absolute stud, and I think the rumors of Chris Godwin's death are greatly exaggerated. And if I was going to do the Rachaad White thing, I would get Bucky Irving because I know I can. And that's it. Whole team. There you go. Nice and simple. Do we think they can go back to the playoffs? Mike, can they beat Atlanta?
Yeah, I think they can.
Their defense has gotten worse.
Careful what you say about Atlanta. I learned that last year. They get very upset. They're very touchy.
No, I think they can. I definitely think they can. I'd put money on Atlanta doing it if I had to, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Bucs.
Yeah, they just, again, the bigger issue is, again, health. I mean, that's always going to be the thing. They've had a couple people already go down for random injuries throughout this, and it's just terrifying. on their defense, which shouldn't be surprising, but has been relatively consistent when it comes to their play style and what they do. And so if they can stay in games, that's one thing. But if they're chasing, it's going to be a tougher sledding for them to keep up. And Falcons might be able to do that, really put up some numbers. But yeah, it's rough.
It's a team that, like I said, there's a few things for fantasy, and then the rest of it is kind of like, yeah, I'm not interested in any of this. And then we'll just have to wait and see how it shakes out real football wise, and then also into the future, because this is a team that I think looks this way now. But if you were to, even next year, I think you're gonna start seeing some turnover, and I'd say in 2 years, there's a very real chance this team looks almost entirely different. Because 2 years from now, I think Baker Mayfield will likely be done, or will be playing somewhere else, possibly as a backup. And then Mike Evans will probably be getting close to retirement. And then same thing with Chris Godwin. Like the two of them, few more years, I think, are both going to be staring down retirement. And then you're kind of just going to be left with Rachaad White at that point. And then at that point, he'll be at the end of his rookie deal. And it's like, do we even want Rachaad White anymore? Like, or are we just starting over? So I do think this team has about 2 years in for real football, where it's like, no, the window is kind of open. They've got it propped open for about the next 2 years to where they could maybe try to do something. Maybe you would need to get pretty lucky, but you could do something. And then I'd say after the next 2 years, it is starting to look like 2 years from now, I think we're talking about, this is one of the teams that has blown it all up. It's all over. Start again.
Well, it's just going to be this conference this division is just going to be an issue because Panthers have already done it. Saints are
by then the Panthers are a Super Bowl team, don't you know? Are you paying attention to what's coming out of Carolina? That by then the Panthers are going to the Super Bowl for the first time since Cam Newton. What? What? Oh, that bad, huh? Oh. Sorry, that was our lawyer. Had to say something to me.
Yeah.
What? All right. That was our lawyer. I'm sorry, Dr. Spaceman Esquire said that you had to go to the penalty box real quick. He spells Spaceman Spaceman. He's a doctor and a lawyer. Don't ask me. I don't know. I didn't look into the references.
Most lawyers are doctors.
Yeah.
They got their doctorate in law. Fun fact for most people. They don't know.
Yeah. So anyway. All right. We've bored everyone long enough with this. Tune in tomorrow while we talk at you and you listen politely about the Tennessee Titans. That is the right way to message that, because I don't know anybody. Only my grandmother. My grandmother is excited about that show. So we got one.
Tennessee?
What's that?
People in Tennessee?
My grandmother's in Tennessee. So that's what I mean. Like, my grandmother lives in Nashville.
Go Bulls.
She's 96. She's a big Titan fan. I'm not making that up. That's real. That's a real thing. Like, my grandmother is alive. She's 96 years old. She lives in Nashville. She will be tuning in. So watch your mouth.
I'm not the one people have to worry about.
How many Mountain Dews you had?
Even then, it takes a lot.
We'll do that show first to make sure the Mountain Dews. Yeah, my grandma's 96. She's a huge Titans fan. She lives in Nashville. Shout out to you, Grandma. And she will be tuning in for that because she loves it. It's like her favorite thing. So we got one. We got one person that I know is going to tune into that show. So anything we get beyond that is gravy. So there you go. We're gonna go through that, and then one last Booker recordings tomorrow. So everybody tune in tomorrow to see the Tennessee show. But until then, keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!